So it's finally here. Earlier today, Fallout 76 got its Invaders From Beyond update. This marking the first major new content update the game will receive in 2022, and honestly, the last major one it'll receive for a little while now, but more on that towards the end of this video. With this update, aliens have arrived and really invaded Appalachia, as this kicks off a new seasonal event with Invaders From Beyond. So for the next 2 weeks in Fallout 76, at least if you're watching this video as it goes live, every hour on the hour an event will pop up at one of a few locations in game that features custom music, a massive alien spaceship, some custom world effects, and of course a ton of aliens for you to face. There's been a long awaited new DLC for this game. People have literally been asking for more alien content since the Flatwoods monster was originally found during the beta. So the way this new event is going to work is it's going to more or less kick off with this new character, Homer, giving you the rundown. Aliens have set up probe devices to collect brainwave data on the inhabitants of Appalachia. Homer's going to guide us through actually getting those devices disabled, which basically is going to involve taking down a bunch of aliens, sometimes some specific alien bosses. But over the course of the event, you're going to have this process where you're taking down a bunch of alien minions of all different types, the occasional alien boss, and then specifically focusing down one of the various 3 probes. And then once you take down all 3 probes and the final boss, you do claim victory. This event creates itself as this all-out war-like scenario in Fallout 76, and as it gets to the later levels, it really becomes pretty chaotic. And of course, with this, there's going to be several new types of enemies that pop up. The traditional Z-10s, just those typical aliens you've seen in Fallout games past, but then also new toxic and cryo aliens, which are basically going to be aliens that either slightly slow you down with cryo damage or infect you with poison and can deal damage over time, which can be particularly annoying. But for totally new enemies, there's also alien drones, which are functionally just alien robots and are a bit tougher than the typical Z-10s. Alien invaders, which probably have the coolest design overall. These are functionally power armored aliens. They have this awesome armor that unfortunately we can't actually get for ourselves. Seems like that was a big missed opportunity with this. And then finally, you'll even get some Flatwoods monster spawns all throughout, in particular at the later levels. As you're doing this, there's going to be AoE damage coming from these probes themselves, as well as shots raining down from the massive alien spaceship above you. So as you're doing this event, probably with some help from other people on the server or just some of your friends, it feels like this all-out chaotic war. Enemies spawning on all sides. It does a pretty good job of always giving you something to do. That something is basically just fight enemies, but that's pretty fun in Fallout 76. A lot of these events have this weird lull where this one doesn't. It feels like constant action. And of course, the theme is great. That only adds to this. You get the custom music, you get the custom visuals, and of course, a giant alien spaceship above you. And if you are successful, which if you're playing this on a public server, you probably will be, you'll get some new rewards also, which is a nice touch. So just for completing the event, you're going to get this new beer stein, which is pretty cool, and then a rare reward. There's a variety of these. 3 of them are weapons. You could actually get the alien blaster plan itself, but more notably, the totally new alien disintegrator from Fallout Forest Creation Club, or the Electro Enforcer. The disintegrator is the classic coming back and functions exactly as you would expect, being very similar to a alien blaster rifle of sorts, while the Electro Enforcer is a 2-handed version of the baton. As well as you complete this event, you can unlock a variety of plans for mods for these 2 new weapons, as well as mods for the alien blaster. And when it comes to these new weapons and their mods, once you actually learn the plan, you'll stop getting that as a reward. So you have a chance at getting it at first, but then once you learn it, it'll stop popping up, so it'll give you a better chance at getting something new. Unfortunately, for one reason or another, that doesn't actually apply to the camp objects you could win with this one, and it doesn't apply to the alien blaster mods specifically. So those you'll probably just end up with several duplicates if you do this event enough. But speaking of the camp objects, that's the other side of these new rewards. There's several new tubes to choose from, one with aliens inside, or you could have 2 different ones with 2 different humans inside for 3 different tubes in total, as well as just an asteroid you could place down in your camp and a alien skinned stash box. I don't know, the event overall is a ton of fun and really cool, especially thematically. One of the things I like that Bethesda did with this seasonal event is the impact it has on Appalachia overall, as there's other changes to the world in addition to this event. Firstly, some events actually have edits to them. Campfire Tales, for example, has a new and pretty interesting ending. I'm not going to spoil it, but I recommend jumping into Campfire Tales if you see this pop up on a server. Several events in the world will now just have aliens popping up as enemies. You could see that during Campfire Tales, but also you could actually see that during things like Line in the Sand. There's also a wide variety of random encounters in the world though, and these are pretty cool. So as you're exploring, sometimes you'll just stumble upon aliens fighting something else, or aliens investigating some kind of dead Brahmin. And some of these are far more unique, like this guy, the man in black in Appalachia, and although I don't want to spoil his entire dialogue, if you see this guy, kill him, or at least the first time, because he has a special drop with a mysterious key, as if you take that mysterious key to TNT Dome 8, which is located right next to the other TNT domes, well, this key will actually open TNT Dome 8. There's a few lore things that'll explode as you try and read them. Seemingly you can't actually do that yet, but make sure you talk to Homer on the big blue screen, as that actually is a feature and it's easy to miss. I won't spoil what he has to say. And this overall makes the seasonal event just feel way more special than any of the other seasonal events they have. Fosnot's cool, the Mothman Equinox event is pretty fun to actually do, but Invaders from Beyond feels like Appalachia is actually different for the 2 weeks this is going on. You're gonna have something new to do constantly with the event itself, but of course you're gonna experience this changed world all over, and I really love that. And of course this is only going to last for the 2 weeks while the event is live, then all those other edits and the event itself will be gone until next year or probably later this year. With this though, Bethesda also brought one pretty major balance change, and in the patch notes, if you're not aware of how this works, it may look minor, where it does say elemental resistances adjusted the calculation for energy and elemental damage to be in line with physical damage calculation. As a result, energy and elemental damage have been increased overall. So basically, since released, Fallout 76 has had a bug, and that is that elemental damage and energy damage, being the main component of that, wasn't being applied correctly. Elemental damage includes energy damage, fire damage, cryo damage, poison damage, and rad damage. And more or less, when you were using one of those damage types and you were facing an enemy who had a resistance to that damage type, which is most enemies in the game, there was an error in the damage calculation. So it would only use the base damage for that damage type, and it wouldn't account for any extras or bonuses, making these damage types inherently inferior to physical damage, which did account for the extras and bonuses. Well, now that's been fixed, and you're now going to have everything working properly. And this is pretty big. It definitely cannot be understated. There's some weapons in the game that now deal nearly twice as much damage as a result of this. There's no way I could go through everything, but specifically if you're using perk-heavy loadouts or something that's heavily reliant on a legendary effect, you're going to feel a big bonus here. And again, this is specifically with the elemental damage type, so energy weapons across the board should feel meatier because you're probably using perks with them, and if you're not, definitely try it out now. One of the notable impacts of this is those legacy weapons that were ridiculously overpowered are now even more ridiculously overpowered, seeing fairly large buffs in some cases, and you could definitely notice this during the event. People using some of those explosive Gatling plasmas are one-shotting things, like literally, where before it might have actually taken a couple of shots, now they just blow everything away very quickly. But in general, this is going to change around some tier lists. There's definitely going to be weapons that were good before and are now super relevant, actually being some of the best options in the game, as well as some things before that were basically unusable, like the alien blaster, that now you might be able to make relevant. Still not going to be a top tier option, but it's not useless either. So overall, super positive change. It's honestly kind of embarrassing on Bethesda's side that this bug lasted this long. I mean, you basically had a variety of weapons in this game that were extremely unviable due to this for the past 3 years. But at the same time, definitely want to praise them for finally fixing this one and actually getting this stuff working properly. So really, that's the bulk of the new side of the content. But one of the other changes that is going to be potentially huge for some of you is around custom worlds, which also got a few new options, which are pretty nice. You can now set unlimited carry weight, which can be super handy on a custom world, assuming you actually pay for one of these. You can control which perks are allowed in the server, or disable or enable that. But the biggest change is now on these custom worlds where you can edit the game world settings, you can now complete challenges. So So if you're somebody who is super into the scoreboard, you could now basically make yourself into a god on a custom world to help you with some of these challenges and progress things this way. Unfortunately, the daily repeatable of gaining experience is not available on custom world, so you can't choose that. But any of the other daily or weekly challenges are made easier now by some of these custom world settings. And this is one of those things that definitely seems like it on paper is going to be a huge feature. Like you could literally just turn on cheat mode and then do some of the challenges. Of course, that's going to be easier. The issue is that a lot of these people who are regularly grinding Fallout 76 seasons already are functionally gods in the game. They're using legacy weapons, they have an optimized build where they deal ridiculous amounts of damage and basically never die. So the amount of resources actually saved, and especially time saved via doing this on custom worlds, is not that huge. At least for the vast majority of those people who are at the late game right now. If you're at the early game, this will be huge. Not having to pay for fast travel, not having to worry about ammo when those are actually concerns will make doing these challenges way easier. And the one thing that will be big as a result of this is the level up challenge. Being able to cheese leveling up using a cheat world on a new character is going to be way easier than it was previously on public or private servers. So overall, I'm happy to see this change, but I don't think it's going to have a ton of people jumping onto custom worlds. And considering when we look at the 2022 roadmap, mods aren't even on this, it just makes me even more confused as to why custom servers exist. Seems like a feature that was basically dead on arrival for the vast majority of players, but took a considerable amount of dev time. I thought it was a stepping stone to mods, but seemingly mods are still over a year out. And again, I'm really confused why this was added. And this is coming from somebody who actually plays most of the time on custom servers because it makes making videos easier, but I know I'm in the minority here. As far as the season itself, that's where the bad continues. It feels like this one is almost completely wasted. It's vault themed, which seems like it has a ton of potential, but they're definitely not living up to that. What you have are a bunch of mediocre to just outright bad skins all throughout. The big reward at the end is the Responders building kit, which although cool, just doesn't really seem that cool for the final big reward. And the later armor is incredibly boring, just kind of being this vault suit-esque armor. And the prize at level 88 is literally a doorbell. On past scoreboards, you were getting custom new features like power armor displays or even crazy cool new power armors. On this one, you get a doorbell. Honestly, the coolest thing on this whole scoreboard, to me at least, is the pharmaceutical station, which is about level 50. It's just a chemistry station skin, but I definitely wouldn't grind 50 levels just for a chemistry station skin. Although if you don't want to actually grind 50 levels, they also made it easier to buy rank ups in bulk. Now you could actually just hover over a certain level and it'll show you the cost to buy your way all the way there. So you could technically just go to the end and buy your way throughout the whole scoreboard if you wanted to. Although something that is actually cool, they actually added a few stories to the pirate radio that are from Vault Dwellers.
A leading nuclear physician. Every red-blooded American knows that living in the nuclear age means we're surrounded by healthy waves of atomic energy.
And then in addition to all of that, there's a bunch of miscellaneous changes with this one, and some of these are fairly controversial. They actually added in a hard limit on camp budgets with this update. There have been a variety of methods to get your camp budget over the technical limit, but now if you're up there, the game is going to basically hard lock down your camp. It'll make it so you can no longer fast travel, place down or move items, or really use items in your camp. You'll basically just have to start deleting stuff. There's a bug fix with a colossal problem, fix an issue that could cause a public event, a colossal problem, to begin after nuking Cranberry Bog to start Scorched Earth. There's a bug where one nuke would cause multiple events to spawn here. People loved this because you would basically get several big events for the price of one. Unfortunately, that's gone. There's a lot of people that are unhappy about this because it was frankly just fun. It was definitely improving the player experience, and it's disappointing this is gone. And this will also have the effect of making it so you'll see way less of colossal problems. Right now in game, there are hard limits on how often you can launch nukes. You can only do it about once every 3 hours. This bug was creating more events, which definitely wasn't a bad thing in this game. Those boss tier events aren't exactly common, they aren't rare either, but I wouldn't be shocked if following this update you see both of them a lot less often. Stim packs are 25% lighter, as well as 25% cheaper to buy at vendors. Certain buff timers, like the Lunchbox XP buff, will no longer become out of sync with the server. This is big. It used to be where your Lunchbox timer would actually end before the time it said it would because of server sync issues. Now they should last appropriately. You can now make backpacks invisible on your character. A variety of the Nuclear Winter seasonal rewards, like the ghillie suits, are going to be popping up Minerva lists. Or at least supposedly they are. It seems like there might be an issue on the back end where the lists weren't actually updated properly, so it may not be working. We'll have to see as this actually goes live. Attacking with automatic melee weapons like the chainsaw, drill, or ripper will now actually drain your action points correctly, as well as a bunch of other minor bug fixes or exploit fixes that I'm not going to dive into directly. Overall, when it comes to this update, it's actually a lot of fun. I genuinely enjoy this new alien content. I enjoy the changes it brings to the world overall, but a problem that I'm facing right now with Fallout 76, and perhaps some of you are also, is the game has just become incredibly bland. That core gameplay loop is just repetitive and not enjoyable anymore to me. I don't enjoy grinding these places. I'm literally just doing this for background footage a lot of the times. The fun part is playing the new events, experiencing those new random encounters, or even checking out some of the more hidden things added around that. I love that aspect. But when you look at this update overall, obviously it's only going to last for 2 weeks, which inherently is a problem when this is most of the content for the next few months based on the most recent community roadmap. We don't got a whole lot else going on anytime soon after this one, but also Bethesda seems to be really relying on new world events as their bulk of content for the first half and really probably first 7-8 months of 2022. And new events are definitely needed with this game. The problem is the actual gameplay loop created by these gets incredibly tedious. Like with the Invaders From Beyond event, it pops up every hour. So the cycle is I log on typically 5-10 minutes before it'll pop up, I play it once, and then I'm just kind of sitting around. But this one, it's nice, you could try out some of the random encounters, but I don't really feel like going back to doing those daily grinds. I find the season grind incredibly tedious, and especially this time when the rewards are so bad or lackluster, it's incredibly unmotivating to do that. So I really just find myself doing something else on my computer and leaving the game open as I wait for the event to pop back up again. And it seems like this is going to be pretty common with a lot of this upcoming content, because the new content is just going to be things that pop up every hour or 2 hours or so with these new events, where it doesn't really look like they're adding anything to edit that core gameplay loop. The new events are fun for the 5-10 minutes they last, but the rest of the game is just still there, being exactly the same and having a basically multi-year long content drought now. We haven't gotten new fundamental changes to that gameplay in a long time. And though, yeah, trying out some of these balance changes with the energy weapons is fun and refreshing, when you're just killing or clearing the same locations with the same enemies time and time again, it gets old really fast. And again, to me, it's really perplexing how Bethesda has such a focus on adding new events to the game, not because I don't want them, but when that's all the content there is, I think it creates this weird dynamic where you're going to have a lot of people kind of just sitting around and not necessarily enjoying the stuff that they have to do while sitting around. Seems like it would have made sense to mix in some new daily ops changes or something along the way to give you some time filler in between events. Those are my thoughts though. It doesn't seem like there's really going to be a lot going on after this event, so if you've been contemplating getting back into Fallout 76, now is the time. Experience this event as it's here for the next 2 weeks, but then over the summer we do have 3 new events coming, so we do also have that to look forward to. Either way, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. As always, again, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.